became something else. And this is why you have the split. I mean, why you have Catholicism and Protestantism. I mean, a major split in approach. And this is also why you have people praying to Jesus. The majority of Christians pray to Jesus. Okay, you pray to God through Jesus, or you pray to Jesus. No, we don't. No. That is totally prohibited. One who prays to Allah, who prays to God through Muhammad, has deviated. This is prohibited in the Revelation. See, the point is that Jesus' way, yeah, I know this is a common misunderstanding. It's good you brought it up, because people commonly misunderstand thinking that Muslims actually pray through Muhammad, but this is prohibited. Muslim has to pray to God directly, as Jesus himself did. Jesus prayed to God, Muhammad prayed to God, all of the prophets prayed to God, and they all taught their followers to pray to God. I'm not that familiar with the church history to identify the exact point in time where they appeared as an institution. This is true. Well, as I said, I could not identify the historical point, but, you know, the point our brother here is raising is that early Christians, the church as we know it today, I mean, specifically really Catholicism and what exists within Catholicism, and this is the oldest church, this was not known by the early followers of Jesus. Alaykum salam. Well, the identification of saints, this has been something, you know, in the Roman Catholic Church, really, they're the ones who carried on the tradition of the saints. Popes or councils would appoint certain individuals who either had some apparently miraculous things take place around them, circumstances which were unusual or supernatural. Commonly, many of the saints were what they call astigmatics. They had, you know, at certain times in the year, like around Easter, you know, their blood would appear in the palm of their hands and they would be identified as being saints. It's some of the reasons why people were chosen as saints. But, you know, many times the saints were fictitious individuals, like the classical case of Saint Christopher. You know, Saint Christopher, who had been worshipped as the patron saint for travelers for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, just back in the 70s, you know, the Pope announced that, guess what, St. Christopher didn't really exist. So please cross him off the list of saints. apparently miraculous things take place around them, circumstances which are unusual or supernatural. Commonly, many of the saints were what they call astigmatics. They had, at certain times in the year, like around Easter, their blood would appear in the palm of their hands and they would be identified as being saints. It's some of the reasons why people were chosen as saints. But, many times the saints were fictitious individuals, like the classical case of Saint Christopher. Saint Christopher, who had been worshipped as the patron saint for travelers for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Just back in the 70s, the Pope announced that, guess what, Saint Christopher didn't really exist, so please cross him off the list of saints. So the whole issue of saints is really something of human choosing, for one reason or another. And the saints become intermediaries between the person and God. People pray to saints. They may pray through saints to God, or they may pray directly to saints. When you listen to people who, they're praying to Saint Jude or whatever, they're praying directly. Do this for me, do that for me. Help me find this and that. They're praying directly. And when people call on Jesus, most Christians will call on Jesus himself. Jesus, help me. And they call on Jesus Christ. They're calling on God, Jesus. They're believing that Jesus is God to help them. Not all, but most. Most. In terms of the doctrine, most. You find individual people, I've met many people from different backgrounds who have rejected the idea that Jesus is God. But according to Christianity, in terms of its doctrine, that is a principal foundation of Christianity. A person who does not recognize Jesus as being not only the Son of God, but as being the third manifestation of God, of the Trinity, being God himself, one who rejects that, according to Christian theologians, reject Christianity. They're outside of Christianity. But, I know that, but in spite of that, I know there are many people, I've met many people who consider themselves to be good Christians, etc., and they don't believe that Jesus actually is God. But as I said, there's that discrepancy between personal conviction and the actual doctrine of the church. And this is why, there's a number of people I know also who have left the church because of these type of things, because it's not been answers for them. The doctrines which are being promoted are really, in fact, against what they feel in themselves, both logically as well as from what they understood from Scripture. Well, this is the human ability to see things in different ways. That is, nobody is going to discount that. That's not even in religion, that's in everything. You working in the hospital, even in whatever field you're in, you and somebody else may look at this thing and interpret it different ways. That's just human. But, see, when we're coming to the foundations of the faith, there are some areas where no difference is allowed. In Islam, there are areas where differences are allowed. Like how I like to wear my kind of clothes. Islam says that when a man wears a garment, that it should not expose his private parts. This is the basic. In other words, it shouldn't be see-through, it shouldn't be too tight, or too short, too small to expose his private. So now, how I decide to fulfill that commandment is on me. I prefer to wear this kind.